Hi everybody, it's Nikki here and welcome to a bookish video. So today's video is my September reading wrap up, which is where I talk about all the books that I read during the month of September and I tell you my thoughts and opinions on each book. I do not go through any synopses in these books unless it was not on my original TBR, which I mentioned in my September Bookgammon TBR video. So if I didn't mention it in that video, then I will give you the synopsis today, but otherwise if I'm talking about a book and I haven't told you what it's actually about, then just know that it will either have been spoken about in my Bookgammon TBR, or you can go and Google it on Goodreads or Amazon or any other book selling website that will give you a synopsis for it. So I will give you all my statistics and everything at the end of the video, but let's get into my thoughts and opinions first. So the first book that I read, I listened to the audiobook of Paradise Lost by John Milton. And I'm going to read you my thoughts and opinions on them. Don't know about Paradise, but I was definitely lost and confused. Too old world vocabulary for me. Yes, I don't have a clue. I really don't have a clue what happened in this book. I use audiobooks for my classics because I feel like I would struggle to read them otherwise. And I feel like if I'm listening to the audiobook, it's somebody who's maybe a bit more rehearsed in reading classics, knows the intonations and the rhythm of the book, especially for this book, which is an epic poem. It's not a novel, it's an epic poem. But while I'm listening to the audiobook, I am doing other things, but I am trying to listen along as well. And like, I was getting the gist that it was something to do with the fallen angels and Lucifer and Satan and the Garden of Eden. It does say something about the representation of Eden. It's something to do with Adam and Eve. But honestly, I couldn't tell you. It was like white noise. I wasn't really intrigued. I wasn't captured. I just, yeah. And also the audiobook for this I listened to on Scribd, and you are going to see an issue regarding Scribd later on in this video. But this was the start of that issue. But I figured I was pretty close to the end anyway, so I continued. Even though there was an issue, I would explain in a moment. Keep you on tenterhooks, keep you watching. But yeah, totally lost and confused. I will not be keeping this. I will not be rereading this. I really don't see the point. I'm not religious. Maybe for someone who was a bit more religious, maybe someone who did follow Christianity, maybe this might be more interesting. I'm not an atheist per se. I am christened Church of England, I believe. Not quite sure what religion that is, to be honest. Just Church of England. Is that Protestant? I don't know. Anyway, but I've not really gone to church to worship or pray. I've been to churches for weddings and christenings. It is what it is. I gave it 2 stars because it wasn't bad, but it wasn't anything. A 2-star is I read it and it was okay, but I was seriously lost. So yes, that's that one. The next book I read, however, was not lost. The Sanitarium by Sarah Pearse. Oh. I had to read this downstairs, sat next to my husband, because this scared me. Let me tell you my notes on it. Creepy, scary, edge of my seat thriller. Couldn't read it in the dark, too scared. Yes, like I say, had to go downstairs. had to sit with my husband, know that I was safe, know that I was protected, and that the creepy person in this that was going around and doing horrible things wasn't going to get me. Oh, there was a moment in here, and it's right at the beginning, so I can't spoil it, but there was a moment in here right at the beginning, I was like, Scott! I'm a wuss, okay? I don't do scary, but I do like every now and again to just dip my toe into something that is just going to give me that little bit of, ooh, thrill. Because, I mean, we all want that, don't we? We all say that we don't want to be scared, that we don't want to be spooked out or creeped out. But then we all love Halloween, so, you know, so yeah, I absolutely loved it. Sprayed edges, pretty good as well. I won't be keeping this. I don't think. I think I will pass this on. So if any of my friends in the UK fancy taking this off my hands, you're more than welcome to. Just give us a shout on Instagram. And I won't be keeping it because I know what happens now. So thrillers, it's hard because although I gave this a 4-star, which would normally mean that I put it back on my shelves for possible reread in the future, it's a thriller. So I'm not going to want to reread it in the future. So yeah, I will be passing this on, but not because I didn't enjoy it, but because it's a thriller and you can't really reread them. So that was that one. Really enjoyed it. I will definitely, if I see another book by Sarah Pearse, I would definitely be interested in picking it up. The next book I read was actually my Waterstones book club pick for the month, which was Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And my notes on it say, enjoyed the Mayan inspiration of the story, had similar vibes to The Seventh Son by Lainey Forbes, great imagery and journey through Mexico. Yes, I really enjoyed this. I listened to it as an audiobook because I didn't have the physical copy. I could be persuaded to go and pick up the physical copy though. I did give it just 3 stars, and normally I wouldn't go and pick up a physical copy if I've only given it 3 stars, but I listened to it on audiobook and I do feel like if I was to physically sit down and read it, it might be bumped up to a 4, because I always feel like I'm missing bits in the audiobook because my attention goes off and away. But I did find myself actually stopping whatever I was doing while I was listening to the audiobook to physically listen. So I really do feel like on a reread it could be bumped up a star, and it's definitely encouraged me to pick up more of Silvia Moreno Garcia's work. I'm definitely interested in is it Mexican Gothic? I think is another book of hers, and I believe that that one's a bit spooky as well, so possibly a pickup for October, I don't know. But I did enjoy it, and yeah, I definitely would be interested. Maybe if I see it on a 2-for-1 offer, or if I see it secondhand, or if anyone was unhauling their copy, I might take it off their hands, give them some money for it, you know, obviously take nothing for free, but unless it's offered. But yeah, I would definitely like to get my hands on a copy. If all else fails, I'll pay full price, not a problem. It's out in paperback now, so it's less than a tenner, so it's not too much of a break in the bank. But yeah, I did enjoy that. The next book I read, and I did read this faster than my buddy, it's my buddy read of Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas, and of course I buddy read this with my good friend Charlotte. We are working our way through the Throne of Glass books, and I did a boo-boo, guys. I did a boo-boo. Because I've read these before, and Charlotte was saying how she was really enjoying a particular relationship that was happening. I did a boo-boo and I told her not to get too attached, and I think I kind of spoiled it for her, and I'm really, really sorry. You know, when you get so excited because I know what's going to happen, and I know that what is coming is even better than what has been before. I spoiled it for her, guys, and I'm really, really sorry. But let's get to my notes. I put, again, enjoyed my reread, seeing the foreshadowing for further books in the series. Forgot about the amazing ending, and yet still felt the excitement. So yeah, I knew that something was going to happen soon, but I didn't know whether it was going to happen in this one or in the next one. And I don't want to spoil it for you guys either. But yeah, really, really love the ending of this one. Even though I kind of know what's happening, I'm still getting a lot from the reread because I'm seeing things that I didn't see the first time round. So yeah, it got 5 stars from me. The next book I read was For the Throne by Hannah Witten. This is the second and final book in the duology of For the Wolf, which I read last year and thoroughly enjoyed. And I had a lot of anticipation for this book. I had a lot of high expectations for this book, and yeah, it got 5 stars. Yeah, it met every single expectation. It was bloody brilliant. So my notes say, enjoyed having Red's sister Neve as the main character this time. Loved the hate to love romance building up throughout the story, as well as the atmospheric world of the Shadowlands. So yes, I won't go into too much detail about what happens in here, but oh, the romance in here. I am a sucker for sassy women with brooding men. Like, I'm a grumpy, broody man, and I don't want you anywhere near me. Slowly turning into, I would die for you kind of man. I love it. And going on my favourite shelf, definitely a recommendation. For the Wolf, For the Throne duology. Pick it up. It's phenomenal. I loved it. Okay, next I read Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna Maguire. Now, I did say I had a very busy September month, and that was because I was going away on holiday. So this was a great read for the holiday because it was nice and short. And I did manage to read it on holiday. I was shocked that I managed to do that because I've never been able to read on holiday before. But I guess I'm getting older now, so I'm a bit more relaxed when I go away on holiday. And I had time to sit and read during my holiday. And I am so glad that I took this book with me because it was just what I needed. I'll give you my notes. Enjoyed the mix of Dracula and Frankenstein story together. Very dark and sinister, bit heavy-handed with the lecture on parenting though. Yes, this is the second book to Every Heart a Doorway, and this one takes place in the magical land that the child, or children, as in this case, as it's a pair of twins, would you call him a pair of twins or just a set of twins? I don't know. Because basically, twins go into this magical land, and yes, I have listened to the audiobook of this before on, was it Scribd? Might have been Scribd, and I did enjoy it. But physically reading it, I got a lot more from it, and that's why I say, when I've listened to a book on audio, that if I have been interested in it, I will go out and physically read that book. at a later date, because I do feel like I miss bits when I'm listening to the audio, and it was exactly true for this one. There was parts of this that I don't remember from the audiobook. So I'm obviously zoning out when I'm listening to audiobooks, but I continue to listen to them because it breaks up the reading for me, basically. Less strain on the eyes. So yeah, I definitely got more out of it this time round. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars, but actually, was it 4? I would definitely reread these again in the future because they are only short. What I would like to do though is at some point just read them back to back. So book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, and just read them as like one whole thing. I still need to get my hands on book 3 so that I can pick that up soon. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. And because my favourite classic is Dracula, and I did enjoy Frankenstein as well, I did really enjoy that flavour, that atmosphere of those 2 classics in this book. I really did enjoy it. So, but it was, as I say, very heavy-handed with parenting and what's the best way to parent a child, and you know, you can't decide which path a child is going to walk just because you're their parent. You have to let them walk their own path, and it was a little bit heavy-handed, but god man, the parents were awful in this, and had very high expectations of their children and were not really equipped to be parents. But I still feel like it was done a bit heavy-handed. It was almost came across a bit like you were being lectured. So yeah, I think that was the thing that brought it down, was I did feel like that commentary on the parenting was a bit much. So that's maybe why it only sat at a 3 stars. But yeah, I did thoroughly enjoy it. The next book that I also took with me on holiday, and I did manage to read most of it, I believe, on holiday, but I had to finish it when I came back, was Red Glove by Holly Black, which is the sequel to White Cat. So this is the 2nd book in the trilogy, I believe. This one also got 3 stars, and my note says, interesting continuation of Cassell's life and teenage angst. Looking forward to the final book. So that doesn't give you much, does it? Yes, this one, I remember thinking when I finished the 1st book, White Cat, where's the story going to go to next? What's going to happen next? Because the 1st book kind of wrapped up. And so I was a little unsure as to where this one was going to go. But there is an event that kicks off this story, and we follow the reaction to that by Cassell, or Castle. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think I pronounced it Castle most of the time. But he's a typical teenage boy who uses his charm and his witty thoughts and banter to kind of get through life. And he's also having to deal with the fact of what happened in book 1 as well. So I did really enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars. I am interested to find out what's going to happen in book 3 because I haven't a clue. Normally when you've finished book 2 in a trilogy, you're normally like, okay, we're building up to a big finale end, and I can't wait to find out how this all ends and finishes and stuff. But I don't have that with this trilogy, because each book is almost like an individual story in its own right. They just happen to all be following the same character. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not one big story that you're following. It's kind of like, this happened, then this happened, and do you know what I mean? It's a bit weird. It is a bit weird. And the next book I read was Youngbloods by Scott Westerfeld, and as you know, Uglies is my favourite series of all time, so I had extremely high hopes for this one, because we had a cameo appearance in here, So let me tell you my notes. Love the writing, the world building, and the fight against the AIs. But my girl, Tally, got a bit mistreated in this book. She made questionable decisions and wasn't the hero I remember. It's sad, really. Yes, unfortunately, this didn't quite reach the way I'd hoped. So it only got a 4 stars, which is still high. It's still high. But when I think back to the Ugly series, and even though Tally, to be fair, in Ugly, she makes some questionable choices as well. But now, in this book, she's meant to have, because she's gone through the series of Uglies, I felt like she should have evolved, you know, and not been making those stupid, silly mistakes she made at the beginning of Uglies. But she kind of is still doing that. And it's meant to be 10 years later in this book as well. So she should have matured. She should have been making better decisions, wiser decisions, and she's not. And I just felt like she wasn't done her justice. And I was upset. I kind of just wanted to go back and read Uglies and just find the Tally that I know and love. And yeah, I liked the story. Rafi, I love their story. Kind of wishes that Tally hadn't made a cameo. And is that awful? I mean, she's one of my favourite characters. But I tell you something, I am seriously looking forward to the film being released by Netflix. They have to do it justice. They're releasing Uglies with Joey King as Tally, and I'm so excited for that. So unfortunately, the Imposter series, and I feel like this has wrapped that up now. I don't think there'll be any more books in the Imposter series. I might be wrong, but I felt like this all wrapped up. So I feel like this is the end of the series of Imposters. I still think that Uglies is better than Imposters. So unfortunately, but it got 4 stars. Next book I read. The Problem with Scribd. Let me explain it. So I was listening to the audiobook of Middlemarch by George Eliot, this huge chonker of a book. And let me read you my notes. DNF'd. Problems with Scribd playing but no sound, so missed parts. Couldn't follow the storyline and didn't capture my attention. So yes, this unfortunately had a bit of a double whammy of issues. For one thing, the story kind of was jumping all over the place. One minute I seemed to be following 2 sisters who, one of them is supposed to be married off, but she chooses not to marry that guy and instead chooses somebody else that nobody thought she would have ever chosen. And then they're going for a walk and she meets someone's nephew and they kind of have a love-hate sort of look and a glare at each other. And then we're talking about completely different characters. And I was like, what happened to the others? What happened to the woman? What? I don't know. I have no idea. It just hopped, skipped and jumped all over the place. And then not only did the plot hop, skip and jump, like I say, I was completely like blindsided. Where did those characters go? We had completely different characters we were talking about. And then the problem with Scribd started getting worse. And the problem with Scribd is this, and they have said in a statement that they were aware of the issue and they were trying to solve it. So the audio would play, the audiobook would continue to play, so you would continue to see the counter, the time counter going up or down or whatever it goes. But but no sound came out. And so you would get like, I'll pick a sentence from here just to show through. So chapter 7, Mr. Clissalban, as might be expected, spent a great deal to the progress of his great work. The key to all... See how annoying that is? You know you've missed a chunk of the story. What if that was the piece of information that I really needed to know? Thanks, Scribd. So, yeah, that was an issue that kept happening. And not just on the odd occasion, almost every other minute. So, in the end, I decided it's a chonker. I did not want to pick this up and read it physically. I don't know if I will keep it. I don't know if I will keep it and maybe try to listen to the audiobook again in the future, or maybe try to physically read it. I don't know. I don't know what I want to do with this one. I picked it up because it was £2.25. That is simply the reason. However, the next book had the same problem. That's what I was trying to say. The next book had the same problem because I was listening to it as an audiobook on Scribd, just because I was really struggling to read at that point. I feel like I'm going into a slump, so I was trying to listen to audiobooks to try and help me. So I was listening to The Never Tilting World by Rinchpeko. I was also really worried because I have read Wicked As You Wish by Rinchpeko that we got as kind of like an advanced copy from Fairy Loot, and I wasn't too keen on that one. I didn't enjoy that one very much, so I was very, very worried that I might not enjoy this. I bought this, I think, before we got the Wicked As You Wish, but I happened to read that one first. I don't know why. So I was worried about this one. And when the problem started with the audiobook for this, I made an executive decision to stop the audiobook and read it physically. And I even went back to the very beginning and read it physically from the beginning because I loved it. Oh, I loved this one. I need to get book 2. Like, now. So my notes on this one says, two twins on opposite sides of the world decide to defy their mothers in order to fix the breaking. Loved the romances, the world building and the creatures. Very Mad Max like. Can't wait to read the next book. I gave it 5 stars. It was so much like a Mad Max movie. It's just brilliant. I loved the romance in here. One side of the world, the dark world, has a sapphic romance, and then the one that's in the sun, which is the Mad Max kind of world, that had like an enemies to lovers. Ticked all my boxes, every single one. I was like, tick, 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 tick. It's got this, it's got that. I loved it. The creatures in here, oh my goodness. People said this was good. And I was like, I'm hoping so. But oh my goodness. Oh, yes. 5 stars. And then last but not least, because I did have a slump, so you'll see there's not many books here, I read These Twisted Bonds by Lexi Ryan, which was the sequel and the final book in the duology of These Hollow Vows? Was it Hollow Vows? Yeah, These Hollow Vows. Love this one too. So my notes on this one says, love triangle, bonds for life, fighting fate, coming into your power. Loved it. Oh my goodness. The first book started off this love triangle, and this one, ho ho ho. Yes! I was kind of like fighting for one person in the love triangle. I won. I was right. It was good. It was so good. If you like stories that have fae in them, you're going to love this duology. It's so fun, so great. I feel like if you read The Cruel Prince and it was just a bit too young adult for you and you want something with a bit more oomph and a bit more storyline and a bit more power maybe, then this duology might be better for you. I do feel like this one was more intricate, more detailed. I mean, I love The Cruel Prince. Like I say, I'm trying to convince myself not to reread it a third time. But this duology is definitely, I'd say, along the lines of The Cruel Prince. But in this case, the Jude character from The Cruel Prince, she is more reluctant, basically. So it does have similarities to The Cruel Prince, but it's just more detailed, more oomph, more world building. It's just brilliant. I loved it. 5 stars. Just great. I really did enjoy this one. And again, These Hollow Vows is already on my favourite shelf in my bedroom, and this will be joining it because I really, really loved the sequel as well. So this will be a duology that I will be rereading again in the future. So that was it. That was the whole month of September. As you can see, there wasn't many books there. So let's go into my statistics. So the total number of books, if you've been keeping count, was 10 because I don't count the DNFs. The physical number of pages I read was 3,122. I read no books, pages, ebook pages. Let me explain this. I kind of did read some ebook pages, but I didn't finish that book until a couple of days into October. If I'd have finished the book on the 1st of October, like I was hoping to, I would have counted it in September's TBR, or in September's wrap-up, but it took me a couple of days longer than I was expecting to, so I've counted it into my October wrap-up instead. So I did read some ebook pages in, I read about 200, I think, ebook pages in September, but they don't count because I didn't finish the book till October. The audio hours of books that I owned was 10 hours and 42 minutes. That was Paradise Lost. And the audio hours of books that I borrowed was 11 hours and 4 minutes, and that was Gods of Jade and Shadow. On to the star ratings. I had 4 5 stars, so a really, really good month. I had 2 4 stars, 3 3 stars, 1 2 star, no 1 stars, but I had 2 DNFs. For genres, I had 1 thriller, I had 1 classic, I had no contemporaries, no middle grades, no non-fiction, no mangas or graphic novels, but 8 fantasies or sci-fis. Can you tell what mood I was in September? The origin of the books I read, 9 I own physically and 1 I borrowed. That was the audiobook of Gods of Jade and Shadow. The format of the books that I read 8 physically and 2 audibly, and 0 books ebookly. The binding of the books I read, 4 were hardback and 5 were paperback. And the gender of the authors, 2 were male and 8 were female. So let's get into some other statistics now. The longest book I read was The Never Tilting World. My copy is 481 pages. The shortest book I read was Down Among the Sticks and Bones. This copy is 187 pages. The oldest book I read, so oldest in publication date, is Paradise Lost. Now, I know that this copy is obviously not that old, but I'm talking about its original date of publish. And Paradise Lost was originally published in 1667. Yeah, it shows. The newest published book is These Twisted Bonds, which was released in July this year, 2022. The highest rated on Goodreads, no surprise, it's a Sarah J. Maas, Crown of Midnight. This has a 4.36 rating as of when I checked it earlier today. And the lowest rated, I was shocked, like really shocked. It's The Sanitarium by Sarah Pierce, and this has a Goodreads rating of 3.37. I gave this 4 stars. I was shocked. I mean, 3 stars is still good, but I was shocked. I was definitely shocked. I expected, I don't know, Middlemarch maybe, or Paradise Lost or something, but maybe the you know, intellectual bigwigs have maybe bumped up their ratings, maybe, possibly, I don't know, but I was shocked to find The Sanitarium at the lowest rated out of these 10 books that I read. My least fave, can you tell? Paradise Lost. I gave it 2 stars. I couldn't even tell you what it's about. But my most fave was most definitely The Never Tilting World by Rincha Pecco, because I had such low expectations for this, I think. And because I had low expectations for it, it shocked me when it really grabbed my attention. A demoness is what they call a goddess that men cannot control. I loved it. I loved it so, so much. Yeah. I cannot wait. I've just seen the dedication at the front. It says, "For all the best doggos who drag their leashes over to my part of the sidewalk because I give the best pats." Good doggos. I love that. It's got a beautiful map in here as well. And yeah, I loved it. I'll read you the first line because this was what really captured my attention. It says, "It was clearly his fault I'd punched him in the face." Set the whole tone. I was like, say what? And that's why I started from the beginning again when the audiobook went wrong, because I needed to read this from the beginning. That's how good this was. I'd already read, I think I was a couple of chapters in, like maybe about there in on the audiobook, and when the audiobook gave up on me, I went back to the beginning and I read it from the beginning. If that is not a sure sign that this book was bloody brilliant, I don't know what is. So that is it. That is my reading wrap up for September. Have you read any of these books? Do you agree with me on any of them, or do you disagree? I really like it when people disagree because it opens up a little bit of a debate and a little bit of chat. So that is it. That is my update for you. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.